So Jay LaFosse here with Alberta Radio. So we're here interviewing Benita Pedersen. So Benita, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. There's a great event happening today in support of the Alberta independence movement. It is the Alberta Sovereignty Now roadside rally and flag wag, and it's been going so well. We had so many people here waving flags today. Lots of enthusiasm, lots of supportive waves and honks.
Awesome. That sounds awesome. So you gave me some literature you're handing out to the public today. So maybe we go over a little bit of topics that we can educate the public with on my viewers. So I guess the first thing is I'm looking at this and we're talking about how we're going to save money by maybe not paying income tax, maybe reducing the income tax. What are your thoughts on it, and maybe educate us a little bit more on that?
Well, I made a flyer too. So the flyer you're holding, this one here, is inspired by material from AlbertaProsperityProject.com, which, by the way, I think is the best website to go to for information about the benefits of Alberta sovereignty and also information about the pathway to Alberta sovereignty. Now, I didn't know for sure if these flyers were going to make it here today, so I also made an additional flyer. And on the flyer that I composed, I highlighted my favorite reasons for supporting Alberta sovereignty, what I perceive are the best benefits, and I highlighted lower taxes as the top benefit to me. And I stated we will eliminate the carbon tax and the GST. And so even just with a starting point there of eliminating the carbon tax and the GST, that's huge. Albertans are going to save so much money. If we can reduce Alberta personal income tax or even eliminate Alberta personal income tax, even better. So it's just super. So to me, that is the biggest reason to support Alberta sovereignty is lower taxes, make life more affordable for Albertans. Just getting rid of that carbon tax alone means food will be more affordable. Traveling to work and back will be more affordable. And just so many benefits to getting rid of that carbon tax. And so I encourage more people to support Alberta sovereignty.
Awesome. And in relation to the carbon tax, I remember during the elections for Pierre and Carney, Carney was campaigning on, we're going to remove the tax, and all of a sudden it suddenly appeared, right? So I always thought, and it fascinates me that they would introduce a carbon tax anyways. It's basically taxing the air we breathe, really, right? Like, it makes no sense at all. And the other stuff, you mentioned Alberta Prosperity Project, so I've been following them and sharing some of their stuff. I'm not too familiar with some of the people behind it, but I do know what they're doing, and I strongly support everything they do. I'm a member myself. So what can you tell us a little bit more about what they're doing, maybe a couple town halls that's coming up next and that?
My understanding is Alberta Prosperity Project has a town hall event happening in Edmonton on Saturday, September 27th. Some of the details are still being worked out. The best place to go to find out about all their town hall events is AlbertaProsperityProject.com. Just find that events tab, click on events, and make sure you scroll all the way through, because sometimes they'll have 1, 2, or even 3 pages listing events. So the events won't necessarily be all on the first page. You got to click through. Alberta Prosperity Project, to me, is the best group that's supporting Alberta independence movement, but they're certainly not the only group. There are several groups that support the Alberta independence movement. Another example is Parents for Choice in Education. So Take Back Alberta, another group that supports it, and the group that I founded earlier this year, Alberta Conservative Association. So there's lots of groups supporting the Alberta independence movement, lots of groups working to get the information out there to people. And so I have these ways that I like to deal with people who currently oppose us. And when I come across people who currently oppose us, my way of thinking is that they simply don't yet understand the benefits of Alberta sovereignty and the pathway to Alberta sovereignty. And so when possible, I take the time to mention one of these things, such as lower taxes. So the paper you've got there, it's really interesting to me. I believe this came from Alberta Prosperity Project, but they calculated that in the current Canadian system, if your gross pay is $78,000, your take-home pay is only $44,000. You lose so much money in taxes. Whereas an independent Alberta, if your gross pay is $78,000 and you're just paying flat rate local tax only, then your take-home income is $70,000. So you only lose $8,000 in taxes, whereas the other avenue you lose at least $33,000 in taxes. So this is just a great example. And there's the Alberta Prosperity Project team has quite the team, and they've got number crunchers doing the calculations, doing the estimates. So I would suggest reading all the material online there, including The Value of Freedom. Really good material.
Some people have said, when we present the income tax to them and say, oh, we're going to save it, they'll come at us, and there's always been this debate where they're, well, what are you going to do to pay for social programs and all the sorts? And my comeback has always been, well, all these transfer payments from the federal government, if we retain that here, that's way more money that we have already that can be doubled down on our education system, our healthcare system, and offer more programs in the long run, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Maybe we could, because I know we are all supportive of the independence movement, but I like hearing what everybody has to say on that itself with the transfer and how it'll be reinvested into Albertans.
Well, one of the things I appreciate that's happening right now is the Alberta Next Panel events, and there's information about those at albertanextpanel.ca. Plus, they've been recording the events, and the recordings are available to watch online. So if you can't attend, you can watch. They have a big online event happening in October. One of the topics covered at those events is the topic of transfer payments and how Alberta, collectively, we Albertans send a lot of money to Ottawa, and we don't get near enough back in dollars or in services. And so one of the steps that's been suggested to address that is Alberta collects its own provincial taxes, because right now the process is I fill out a tax form. Sure, it's got my provincial details on it as well as my federal details, the tax I owe to each entity, and I fire that off to Canada Revenue Agency. And back in the day, I used to write a check, right? And things are a bit different now. But the money went to the feds, and then it came back to Alberta, maybe, right? Mm-hmm. So Alberta needs to be collecting its own taxes. We'll save so much in administrative costs, because I've been learning about a number of federal agencies. They're very bloated. Oh, yeah. And the amount, so the CPP is another great example. Yeah. So the amount of money, it's like they're bleeding. The money's just being spent. Like, these people are not conservative at all. They're not fiscally responsible at all. It's just, let's just spend the money. And so the administrative cost, that steals a lot of our taxpayer dollars. Whereas if you have a more efficient system, then we're going to save a lot. And so just even administrative charges alone, right? When it comes to the Alberta tax dollars we're sending to Ottawa, okay, or Winnipeg, wherever the CRA office is that you send to.
Sudbury, Ontario.
Okay, and then they send something back. So sending it to the province of Alberta, they're going to manage it more responsibly, they're going to be faster, it's going to cost us less in administrative charges. Sure, that means that the current Alberta tax department needs to expand. They got to hire some more people, train some more people. That's fine, so be it. Yep. They might even hire some CRA people. Who knows? There might be good CRA people that want to work for the Alberta tax department. We'll see what happens. Yeah. So, I really like that suggestion, because we can't just say, let's put an end to transfer payments. That's not the process. We have to follow the process. So let's at least get Alberta collecting Alberta's taxes. Quebec's already doing it. No reason we can't do it. Just do it. Yep. And what bothered me about the Alberta Next Panel event was that it was sort of implied that Alberta collecting its own taxes could be a referendum question. And personally, I don't think it needs to be a referendum question. I say just do it. Just do it, because I've got a better idea for a referendum question.
Yeah. And when we talk about the federal taxation system and that, and you mentioned Quebec, I know that Quebec has no federal taxes. They don't collect federal taxes for the government like they do here for all the rest of the provinces. They're I guess independent from that. But it's something that Alberta should learn from. And you're right. I don't think it should be a referendum question. I think we should just do it. And that's part of, putting the sovereignty question on the ballot anyway, right? Because you have to create your own economy. So that requires taxation from the provincial level or municipal level even. And yeah, I mean, all that money, like when I look at how much money we've sent to the east, right? And then how much we actually get back. And I think, well, what if we just kept it here? Like, there's a solution to the healthcare system that crosses over to the education system in terms of we have an education system that riles our students up in high school. Get a job, we're going to college. But the minute you have to go to college or university, you're slapped with a loan. So I always thought that, well, if we're going to get this extra money, why don't we stimulate our education system, remove the barrier of loans, we'll fill the gaps with surgeons, doctors, and all those professions we really, really need, because the kids are going to have the incentive to go to school for free. Because me, when I went to school, I wanted to do a different thing, and just because of the loan, I took computer sciences, right? Because it deterred, it's the debt that...
More affordable post-secondary school does appeal to me. With that being said, I really think more young people need to be encouraged to pursue the trades.
Yep.
We need builders, we need electricians, we need plumbers. I think more youth need to be pushed in that direction. Carpenters, please.
Oh, yeah.
Diggers, people who can run a backhoe. We just saw a backhoe earlier here, and I thought it was a pretty good looking backhoe, but I thought it would have looked better with an Alberta flag on it. But I loved seeing a backhoe. My dad drove backhoe. And so I really want to see more people pursue the trades. That's something, and maybe there needs to be incentives to pursue the trades because we need more tradespeople. So maybe there's more discounts on tuition. Tuition's more affordable. I don't know, but let's nudge them in that direction.
Yep.
And you know, I thought about education. In a number of ways, the Canadian federal government has stepped out of their jurisdiction and are meddling in areas they shouldn't be. And so when you study sections 91 and 92, you see clearly education is under provincial jurisdiction. Yep. And yet the Canadian federal government is influencing it. Healthcare is under provincial jurisdiction, and yet the Canadian government is meddling in there. And so it's time for the Canadian government in many ways to butt out. But we've noticed that they won't voluntarily butt out. They really like meddling in areas that aren't their jurisdiction because it appears there's people who either are in administration for Canadian federal government or even elected representatives that really like to find ways they can tax more. So the Canada Health Act, what came with that? Oh, more opportunities for taxing Canadians.
Right.
So here they are meddling in areas of jurisdiction that they shouldn't be. And we've noticed they're not going to back out. So as we become a sovereign Alberta, so what does sovereign mean? It means you're standing up on your own 2 feet. It means that you're using your own resources and you're paying your own way. You're not dependent on anybody else. And Alberta's totally capable of doing that. So for Alberta to stand on its own 2 feet and essentially say to the Canadian federal government, no thanks, we don't need your meddling here in healthcare and education, etc. No thanks, back off, and in a sense force them out because they're not voluntarily going to leave. We have to stand up and say back off. It's necessary.
And then it brings us to the opposition. Right, so I seen that Luchak and a few other, Canadians, I feel other Canadians when they say, well, we don't want to split the country up. But I always answer with this, and I try to educate people, and I say, well, look at our federal system. It's an outdated dinosaur. It's hundreds of years old. It's still running on a parliamentary system that hasn't really changed much except for the statutes and policies they put forth, and then taxation, right? And then the overreach. But when you look at it as a whole and say, well, Quebec is on its way to become a sovereign nation pretty much. Alberta's on our way to do the same. I think that Alberta and Quebec could form a partnership to teach other provinces to do the same and save Canada as a republic, where we have our state heads from all the provincial jurisdictions go to a meeting in a federal level. It's just them with the First Nations people. They have a voice. I think that, if we had a setup like that where, let's say Manitoba needed something from Alberta, and said, hey, Alberta, we need this. And Alberta says, well, hey, we need something from you. There's no arguing in a parliamentary system for years to get one thing done that moves us forward, right? And it's a modernized society now We're not 1950s. We're not, you know what I mean? We've advanced so much in 50 years. So I look at it, do we adapt to the modernized system? Look at ways to say, well, we know we have a federal government that's acting like a out of control babysitter, and it's just dictating to us and taking our toys away when we have, I guess, when they feel that we're out of line. That's how I look at it, you know? So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
I'd like to present an analogy. Let's pretend for a moment that you're a college student. You're 19 years old and you have lived with your parents in Edmonton. They've agreed to support you while you're going to college. And let's pretend that you have some younger siblings living there too. So just pretend for the moment it's 3 younger ones, a 17-year-old, a 13-year-old, and an 11-year-old. All right. So those younger siblings are most definitely dependents on the parents. They're not quite ready yet to stand on their own 2 feet. Maybe that 17-year-old has a job and is paying for his car, who knows. And you, if you're in your early 20s, if you've got post-secondary school expenses, perhaps you've taken out student loans, perhaps your parents are helping to pay. Well, there's going to come a point, you're done your post-secondary school, you're ready to go to work. And it very well may be that you and your parents are okay with you still living at home because it's more affordable for you now. You can save up to buy a house or whatever it is. So let's say you're living at home and you're making good money and you're saving money because you're not paying full living expenses. Now let's just pretend for a moment that maybe your parents aren't great parents and maybe your siblings aren't great siblings, and they realize how much money you're making, and then they start going, gimme, 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 gimme. Yeah. And at first you might be okay with it because you're so happy to make money. They supported you during your time, so you're thinking, I'm going to support them financially. And so initially you may very willingly, of your free will, give. Yeah. You start paying household expenses. Maybe you start buying groceries for everybody. Maybe you're the one that pays the internet bill and the TV bill. So initially you're very happy to give. Now, the general rule I've noticed is that it takes 2 years for a habit, any habit, to basically become solidified and practically a part of your core. And the problem with 2 years of any trend, and notice that the COVID lockdowns, around 2 years. So the problem with 2 years of any trend is once you're stuck in any trend, good or bad, for 2 years, it's really hard to get out of it. So now picture that your parents and your younger siblings are accustomed to being supported by you for 2 years. They love your money. They love it. You pay the cable bill. They love it. They love it. They love it. It's really hard for them to get out of that. And maybe you didn't even mean to groom them into dependence. Maybe you did it inadvertently without intention. You thought you were helping. Yeah. But helping and hindering, when it comes to that topic of enabling or empowering, there's a gray zone there that needs to be clarified. So there may come a time where you're ready to leave. You're ready to buy your own house and you're going to marry your wife. You might even have children. You now have other responsibilities, which therefore means you are pulling your resources, your talents away from the individuals who've been accustomed for over 2 years to taking advantage of your talents, your resources, your money. The reaction after somebody has become accustomed to receiving something for an extended period of time, the reaction is often, oh no, don't do it, no, we need you, right? But if you can actually pull away, and that can be a painful process and it may hurt some relationships, but let's pretend you actually pull away and say, no, I gotta do this, you guys gotta pay your own cable bill now, and off you go. They might be mad at you for a while, but they are eventually going to benefit from it. Because once they realize they can't rely on you to pay the rent, the groceries, the home maintenance, the cable bill, they're going to realize they got to rely on themselves. And then suddenly they're going to come up with ideas and ambition and inspiration. So where I'm going with this is that Alberta becoming sovereign is actually going to help Canada.
Oh, 100%.
It's going to help. It is going to force many provinces out east to stand on their own 2 feet, make use of their own resources, develop them, make use of their own talents, develop them. People in the other provinces are going to become creative because they can no longer rely on the money and resources they were getting from Alberta, and they're going to figure it out. And that initial separation, yeah, it might be painful. It doesn't have to be, but there will come a time that those people out east, those provinces, they're going to flourish again. And we already know Alberta's going to flourish when we no longer have so many people sucking our energy and our talent and our money and resources from us.
Yeah. 100%. Well, I think I'll wrap it up, but I really appreciate it. And thank you for putting on the event today here. I've been to a lot of your events, and I think the biggest one that I've seen you pull off so far was Save the Children protest. We had like over 20,000 parents that showed up. Remember that?
Oh, are
that
you
was...
talking about the 1 million March for Children?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, 2023.
We did it again in
yeah.
2024. 2023, I think we had 2,000 or 3,000 people, and then 2024 we had less. But yeah. The 1 million March for Children.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and just maybe plug your website and let people know where they can reach you.
Sure. So first, I'd like to invite all your viewers to enter to win an Alberta flag. So I just want to display this so you can see. And it's so simple to enter to win. All you do is text FLAG to 780-349-0181. So that's all you got to do. Text FLAG 780-349-0181. And it's enter to win an Alberta flag. So text today. And the draw isn't until October, but do text today. And the flag's being sponsored by me. I founded an organization earlier this year called Alberta Conservative Association. So I've got some signs here. And Alberta Conservative Association is one of the many groups that supports the Alberta Independence Group. There are others. And so I'd like to encourage you to support that. And then the last thing is I've developed a flyer. Now there's other flyers available, but the one I've developed is kind of short, sweet, to the point, real quick read. And if you want this flyer emailed to you, and then you can print it off because you can get 3 per page. It's a 2-sided flyer. Then all you do is you text that same number and you write PDF and you write your email address, and I'll email you the PDF. And then you can print off these flyers, which promote the Alberta flag draw, but they also talk some of the reasons for Alberta sovereignty. It talks about how to support Alberta sovereignty. It includes the email address of the Premier of Alberta, because I'm encouraging people to email her. And it includes some websites to visit to learn more about Alberta sovereignty, why Alberta should leave Canada. So, yeah, so I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.